Hey everybody, Elizabeth Nader back with you, the Nader Narrative on Jersey First TV. Proud to bring you congressional candidates across New Jersey. We have an amazing group of them this year running in one of the most important elections we've ever had. And I want to welcome one of those candidates, Rik Mehta, to the show. Rik, so happy to have you here.
Oh, Elizabeth, thank you. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You are running in District 6. You're running against Frank Pallone. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But one of the most important things for us to find out is why you are running for Congress. It's no small thing to throw your hat in the ring and to do this. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of focus, really not only discipline, but sacrifice. So, Rik, why do this? Why now?
Yeah. Well, Elizabeth, that's a great question. And so for me, it helps to first share my story, which really started 52 years ago when my father first immigrated to this country. He only had $100 in his pocket. In fact, his parents back home in India were dirt poor. He came through the legal process and found a home for us. He landed into JFK Airport with 2 feet of snow on the ground. And he went to Scranton, Pennsylvania and made a life. He met my mother at Temple University. I say that because my story started like many of us here in New Jersey. It was about hard work, humble beginnings, and the belief that the American dream is available to anyone willing to chase it. And many of you remember me from my run for Senate against Cory Booker. And let me tell you, chase it is exactly what I did. You know that I wear many hats as a biotech entrepreneur, as a pharmacist, as an attorney. I worked overnights to put myself through law school. But the reason why I'm running are for 2 hats, and the 2 hats that are most important for me, being a father and being a husband. See, Elizabeth, I got 3 little boys at home, and I care about the future of this state. I care about the future of this country. And I'm concerned about the future of this country and where it's headed. I'm concerned about the political rhetoric and the disingenuous policies that have passed, that have crushed our businesses, that have crushed our livelihood, that have crushed our American dream. I want a better America for all of us, for all of our children. So at the end of the day, I'm doing this because I want that American dream to be alive and well for all of our children.
So important. And it feels like, we always say elections are this is the one, but really this is the one because we're heading in a direction right now that is not sustainable. So when you look at DC, what are the things that concern you the most? And that's a long list, I'm sure, but give us kind of the top few that keep you up at night.
Well, the one that keeps me up at night are career politicians using our proud communities to build their careers off the backs of our communities. And that one really does keep me up at night. So I'm challenging a 34-year incumbent that is drenched in special interest and corporate greed, Frank Pallone. He's the chairman and ranking member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. If that shouldn't alarm everyone, then you're sleeping at the wheel. With the high gas prices that we're currently seeing at the pumps, his failed policies and lack of leadership in Congress is exactly how we got to where we got to for not being independent on our energy sources. So I'm running on a campaign, what I call the 3 E's. The first E and foremost, economy. Our economy right now is literally down the tubes. We have high inflation that's making it unaffordable for our middle class and lower middle class families to survive. We have high gas prices that are creating labor shortages and supply chain shortages that don't allow people to make ends meet. If you can't put food on the table for your family, then that's concerning. And that is really the main principle, that letter E. The second E is education. I'm very concerned about these top-down elitist policies that are ruining our educational curriculum. Indoctrination at the forefront of this, we have to do more and do better to protect our parental rights. I am, as a father, I'm very concerned about the curriculum agenda, the fact that there's a lack of school choice for our children, the fact that 65 to 70% of our taxes go to our educational systems, and yet our kids in a global economy continue to fail against countries like China and India and other countries that don't spend nearly as much as we do per student. That has to end, and it can come from Congress. The third E, and this one is critical too, and I touched upon it, energy. We have to be energy independent. In fact, we have to be independent in all of our manufacturing that we've lost to other countries. We have to bring back to America. And so those three E's I'm standing on. But the fourth E, and Elizabeth, this one is critical because you can't have the first three E's without the fourth E. The fourth E is election integrity. Okay, I ran for U.S. Senate in 2020. And I'm disappointed at how, not even disappointed, very concerned about how easily governors were able to really manipulate our constitutional rights, change the way we vote, and not allow for a free and fair election system. We have to do more to protect our polls, allow for voter ID and federal monitors, and ensure that the core fabric of preserving our republic, which comes down to the way we vote and the way elections are run, are protected by every measure. So those are my top priorities when I get to Congress, among so many that we need to fight to fix our healthcare system. This is the reason why I'm running.
So let's take the last one, election integrity. How do you feel about the upcoming election in November? After the cloud of 2020, no matter what really happened, didn't happen, I don't know what we figured out from there. Do you feel like this one will be integral?
Listen, I'll tell you what we need to do. We, and part of the Republican Party platform, has to be built on getting out the vote. The worst thing that Republicans can do is not vote. Okay. Now, if we don't become more vigilant, we will lose again. If we have patriots all across the state pulling out their smartphones and doing whatever they can do to create transparency in the system, we will win.
Right.
The one thing we can't do is walk away from the face of corruption. And we, as the party of law and order, as the party of fairness, as the party of justice, need to make sure that those tenets we believe in, we're standing up for. The worst thing we can do is walk away or stay home. The best thing we can do is be vigilant.
Absolutely. And I pray we have the highest voter turnout we've ever had this year. Certainly people are paying attention. Let's talk about your district. It changed a little bit with redistricting. What is your district like? What kind of people live in 6?
That's a great question. So the 6th district, and I'm biased, I think it's the most important district in New Jersey. It really covers what we call central New Jersey, if that's even a place. It's predominantly Middlesex County and parts of Monmouth County. About 70% of the votes come out of Middlesex County. Major towns like Woodbridge, Edison, Carteret, Sayreville, South Plainfield, South Amboy, Perth Amboy, Piscataway, Metuchen. I might be missing a couple. Really, really important area, salt of the earth American, many blue collar family, middle class families that have come here to live their American dream and build their lives here. Demographically, this district it's a majority minority district. About 60% Black and brown community, 50 to 55% Hispanic and Indian Americans. It has arguably the largest Indian American population than any congressional district in the entire country. We have deep ties in this community. My father-in-law's built businesses. Myself, I have a business there too. He's been there for more than 40 years. Our ties to the community far extend political affiliations. And this is the reason why I'm excited. These people want someone that represents them. Listen, Frank Pallone is over in Monmouth County, a beautiful area, but the truth is he has not won over the hearts of the people across the way over in Middlesex and in the entirety of his district. They see him as someone who's failed them. They see him as with the poor constituent services through the pandemic. They see him as someone who's been there for 34 years and an entrenched Democrat who doesn't care about the people. The people, the community members, the people that know me for more than 40 years, they want someone who now represents them in the 6th congressional district. And I say it's a road, Elizabeth, from Oak Tree Road down to Ocean Avenue, and one that I continue to travel every single day.
So speaking of those fine people in your district, I'm sure you've been outdoor knocking, you've been working hard. What are they saying to you? What are their top concerns?
Their top concerns is putting food on the table. Now, like I said, I mean, these are middle class, lower middle class families that now see that they're paying anywhere to 60 to 80 bucks to fill up their sedan at the gas stations. That's a huge hit. They're talking about why their drug prices cost so much. They're talking about the concerns about how polarized America has become. They're talking about the fact that they go to the grocery stores and they can't find the right supplies. They're talking about what the future of education is going to be for their children, and whether, and this is the most concerning, whether New Jersey is even the right state for them anymore.
Wow. That's something we've seen right over the past 2 years, the migration out of New Jersey, which is difficult to watch. You must have seen parts of, or all of, depending on how much you could stomach, of the State of the Union. And I'm curious what you were left with in terms of thoughts about what's going on with this administration.
Yeah. Well, this administration, the Biden administration in cahoots with the Murphy administration, has failed the people of New Jersey. It's failed the people of America. Let me give you one example that hits home for me. I spent many years as a consumer safety officer at the FDA fighting to take, and I have taken, millions of illegal opioids off the market. Just recently, the CDC put out data that over the last 30 years, we've lost over 1 million Americans to the opioid crisis. Yeah. Frank Pallone, while he's the chairman of the House Energy and Commerce Committee, actually sits underneath a subcommittee called the Health Subcommittee. He's been the ranking member for 34 years on the Health Subcommittee. This one committee is probably and arguably one of the most powerful subcommittees or powerful committees in the entire House. It's the one committee that's responsible for holding the NIH, the CDC, the FDA, and every other federal health agency responsible. Since the start of this pandemic, he has done nothing to hold Dr. Fauci, Dr. Walensky, or any other bureaucrat that thinks they're above the political process or above the people accountable. It's no coincidence that we've lost over 1 million Americans to the opioid crisis, and Frank Pallone's been the ranking member of the Health Subcommittee responsible for the opioid crisis for 34 years. He has failed to hold bad actors responsible. He's failed to put resources at the border to close the border and stop this supply of illegal narcotics and synthetic fentanyls from our southern border or from China through our mail facilities. He's done nothing but sit on his hands. He is the man responsible for not ending this opioid crisis. So when I talk about entrenched politicians, for me, this is less about being a Democrat or Republican. This is about people and authentic leaders who want to go to Washington and actually make a change in fixing our current system, our current laws, and our current framework to focus on common sense policies that advance for the betterment of America and for our children.
You know, as you talk about that, these are sort of the forefront issues, right? Energy, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but also the health committee with everything that's gone on. So this is a man who's served for a very long time. I need to ask you, are you in favor of term limits?
Absolutely. The thing is, you know, when you serve for that long, you're basically entrenching yourself into the swamp. And that's exactly what Frank Pallone has done. I think that any candidate should really think hard about how long they're actually going to serve versus making a career out of politics. And one thing that I'm concerned about is that politics has turned into a business. And I understand, you know, and I'm a capitalist and everyone should get paid, but you can't do it at the expense of our proud communities. People truly are dying. People are having a hard time to live. Look what has happened over the last 2.5 years. They've turned our entire country into a single public health issue country.
Right.
So we've had the highest rise in teen suicides. We lost the highest number of people to the opioid crisis. Things that I told the public to watch out for with our career politicians back in March 2020 when the pandemic first hit. I said, I know that we're going through a crisis right now, but our country is strong. It has resolve. It's resilient. Be careful for shifting all your focus onto one thing and not looking at all of the other things that continue to plague our country. People can't afford their drugs. People are concerned that 80% of our supply chain for essential medicines come from China. While there's a war raging, and we don't know right now the involvement and the deep involvement China will have with Russia, and we already know alliances have been made, do we still feel comfortable with 80% of our essential medicines like penicillin and antibiotics and insulin and other products coming from China? How have we failed the people to not become independent from all these foreign sources, that when a crisis does happen that comes so close to our border, we are not prepared and we are not ready.
Right.
This is the reason we don't need career politicians in Washington anymore. We need people that want to stand up for the people.
Based on your experience and a lot of what you just said and what you have done with your life, is one of your priorities as a congressman to address the issues you just laid out in healthcare, the opioid crisis, the manufacturing of drugs. Do you feel like this will be one of your main points of focus as a new congressman?
Absolutely. I'd say, Elizabeth, arguably, I'm probably the most experienced congressional candidate running for office in the entire country that has more than 20 years of health policy experience, currently serve as a health law professor at Georgetown University, and one of the few conservative voices on these matters that really understand what it's like to what we need to do to fix these issues, change the laws to make, to really address the problems that we're currently facing right now. Again, some of these career politicians, one, they have no experience. I mean, again, Frank Pallone, his only experience has been a career politician. He was a staffer who then took over the position 34 years ago, and all he's been doing is hanging out in the halls of, of Congress.
Right.
We need people that have been working at the forefront, right on the front lines of these issues, that want to go in, make change, have an agenda, fix the issues, serve the people, and then when they're done, get out.
Yeah. So foreign policy, let's switch to that for a moment, because I think it's important for anyone you vote for Congress to understand their viewpoint on how they look at the US's foreign policy. And obviously right now, big thing with Ukraine. So tell us about your viewpoint on how the United States should stand in this issue in general, what position we should take on foreign policy.
Sure. Well, here's the thing right now, and this is what's most concerning to me, is that we have an administration that continues to funnel the war on both sides because of the fact that we shut off the pipe to our own oil, being oil independent, being energy independent. We have no choice but to funnel billions of dollars to Russia. Where do you think that money's going? It's obviously going to help them funnel this uncalled for war and true insurrection they've had into Ukraine. At the same time, we're now sending aid to Ukraine. And what I think America has done, unfortunately, under the Democrat administrations, is forgotten who our true allies are. We cannot we are not good bedfellows with communist countries or other dictators. Doesn't work. It's never worked. And yet that's what continues to happen under Obama, under Biden, and many of these Democrat leaders, so-called leaders. And that's frustrating to me. So when it comes to foreign affairs and our positioning in foreign, we have to look at the fact that we do truly live in a global market. There's no doubt about it. But we have to put those freedom-loving countries first as our top allies. Yeah. And I think we need to continue to fight for that. And as I just mentioned, globalization of our medical supply chain started under the Obama administration. In fact, the FDA couldn't even keep up that we're now using taxpayer money to fund U.S. inspectors for Chinese manufacturing plants, allowing for China to conduct business of our essential medicines here in America. Wow. We need to shut that down. We need to bring it home. Now, no one's arguing that we don't live in a global economy. I believe in free trade. I believe in a free economy. Undoubtedly, it's good for capitalism. It's good for America. But what we can't do is allow for these countries to manipulate our currency, force inflation, devalue their own currency like China has done, and allow for aggression into other democratic and republic areas. Yeah. We need to recognize Taiwan and its independence. And we need to do more to continue to support those countries that wave our flag and our banner for freedom. See, the American flag stands for America. Everyone knows that, and we love our country. But what people really need to realize is that the American flag around the world stands for freedom.
Yeah, that's right.
And many countries and patriots all across the world, in Taiwan, in Venezuela, in other areas, when they fight and they rally for freedom, when they march up against an oppressive regime, what are they waving? They're waving the American flag. The one thing that I won't stand for is bureaucrats like Joe Biden and others to devalue our flag and the true meaning of freedom for everyone across the world.
Absolutely. Amen to that. So let's do a lightning round as we wrap up.
Sure.
I'm just going to throw out a few issues we haven't discussed and just quickly give me where you stand on them. Let's start with the Second Amendment.
Yeah. Well, listen, we need to have parity among our laws to allow for protecting our constitutional rights across the board. It doesn't make sense that you can have be a firearm owner and cross state lines and then potentially face, jail time. That makes no sense. So we need state reciprocity for our Second Amendment gun owner rights. And we need to continue to fight for all of our constitutional rights, to be frankly honest with you. It does concern me, this war. And the other piece I mentioned, I know you mentioned lightning round, but this is important. As an expert in public health, we cannot let overzealous bureaucrats abuse the term of public health and public health emergencies to trample on our constitutional rights. We saw it under the pandemic. We see it under gun rights too. They'll label gun violence and look at only the bad actors, those frankly that have no idea how to own a gun and use a gun, as this epidemic of epic proportions, and label it as a public health emergency in order to pause constitutional rights. We can't do that. We need smarter lawmakers in Washington to stand up to protect constitutional rights, and for them to know that public health laws are not above constitutional laws.
So I don't need to ask you about medical freedom then, because I think you eloquently describe where you stand on that and supporting that. Let's move to the issue of life.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, one of the proudest moments I've ever had was the day I found out that my wife was pregnant. I didn't start calling my child after she gave birth. I started calling my son when she was pregnant. And I believe unapologetically that we must do more to protect the life of our children, whether they're born or unborn.
What about our border?
Listen, we know that putting aside illegal immigration, which continues to drain our resources and it's fraught with problems, we also know that millions of pounds of synthetic fentanyl and narcotics are coming through our southern border. If not for anything to end this opioid crisis, we need to close our border. We need to do better to protect our sovereignty of our nation and not allow for others to take advantage of it. At the same time, we also need to do more to understand the determinants of why people are flocking here. I understand we are the greatest nation in the world. Many people would want to live here, undoubtedly, and I don't blame them. I'm very, very humbled the fact that my father was able to do it through the legal process and establish a life for my family here in this country. But we do have a system of law, and we need to have law and order with our southern border.
Okay, what about school choice?
100%. Listen, as someone who grew up in a predominantly low-income neighborhood with failing school systems, and someone who's a public health specialist and expert, I can tell you right now that the zip code is the number one determinant of whether or not a child will face good public health or bad public health. Why, if we know that they may face bad public health, would we want to trap them in a particular zip code? We need to allow for choice. I mean, 60 to 70% of our tax dollars goes to a monopolistic system that continues to fail our students. If we had choice, we have competition. If we have competition, we have people rising to the limit. And let me tell you something, this is also good for teachers. I'm a son of an educator. I truly believe that if we had school choice and more competitions, the salaries for teachers are going to go up. And those that, when we create a merit-based system, I'm telling you, our teachers are going to be very, very happy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we had a lot of issues. Thank you very much for getting all of that out. And I want people to be able to find you, follow you, show up at your events if they want to support you. So let's tell them how to get in touch with you.
Yes, please follow me on Facebook. It's Rik Mehta, or go to RikForNJ, RIKFORNJ.com. We're having a whole string of events coming up between Middlesex County and Monmouth County. Really, really exciting events. We've had many people there that are rallying for freedom. So would love to have you, but do follow me on Facebook, on Instagram. You can find me. I'm a known personality, Rik Mehta. Just Google it and find me and follow.
Thank you for being willing to step into this arena and to fight the good fight on behalf of all of us. We appreciate it, Rik.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you for your hard work as well.
Absolutely. And to my audience, we'll be back with another congressional candidate. Please share these interviews as best you can, and we will see you all.